going to be really unusual. You probably won't hear these things on any other place on the entire internet. But you're probably all aware of all the different times that people observe calendars. And there's several reasons for that. There's false teachings, there's people have original new ideas about things, but there's another element that seems to get overlooked. This one's called changing time. All history has seen separate kingdoms or nations, and each was given borders set by Yahuwah. In these last days, a global one-world power is set up to devour all the reigns within 10 territories over the earth. This is the work of the planners to set up a new world order, also known as the New Age, under the United Goyim, the United Nations. Here's what Daniel 7, starting at verse 23, says. This is what he said. The fourth beast is the fourth reign on the Eretz, earth, which is different from all other reigns, and it devours all the Eretz, tramples it down and crushes it. And the 10 horns are 10 kings from this reign, and they shall rise, and another shall rise after them. And it is different from the first ones. And it humbles 3 kings, and it speaks words against the Most High. Words that are different from what he told us. And it wears out the Kodesh ones of the highest one, and it intends to change appointed times and Torah. And they are given into its hand for a time and times and half a time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away its rule, to cut off and to destroy until the end. Unquote. These weekdays that we call these 7 days of the week, they're all, basically planetary or astrological deities. Like the first day of the week that we know of in the United States and Australia, Tasmania, and I think in England too, and probably Australia. We all have the same language, basically, and we know the names of the days, but we've learned their pagan names, like Sunday, the day of the sun, that was set up by Constantine, Dies Solis. And of course, if you've read my book, Fossilized Customs, you're already aware of those names. Like Monday refers to the moon. And then the third day of the week, we call Tuesday. And then the one that starts with W, and that's a Norse deity. And the fifth day is a Norse deity. And the 6th day is a Norse deity. Actually, I can't say their names. Exodus 23:13 prohibits obedient ones from having those names heard on their lips, any foreign deities. And of course, you've got this Saturday, naming the 7th day, which is just a Roman deity. And then it starts over again with Sunday. And Sunday was renamed the Lord's Day. I'm into origins. So that started in the 4th century, because they called that the day of the sun, and the Lord was the sun, and it's actually Bel. But in Revelation chapter 1, when Yehukanah was in the Spirit on the Lord's Day, he was referring not to the first day of the week. He was referring to the great and awesome day of Yahuwah. That would be the Master's day, Yahuwah's day. But they altered the translations and tweaked them to fit what they already believed in the translations. The translations are interpretations, and so they filtered everything through what they understood. The BYNV calls it the great day of Yahuwah, the day of Yahuwah. That's what it talks about all through Scripture. It wouldn't just change and start talking about the days of the week there. Yahuwah was shown the day of Yahuwah. He wasn't shown the first day of the week. Anyway, is the rest day? Is it the Monday? Is it the day of the moon, or is it Sunday, the first day of the week? Well, which is the first? They've changed things for you in the background while you were sleeping. Some things have been altered. The ISO, which is actually based on a Greek word, it's not an acronym. It stands for isos, and that's a Greek word that means equal. And it has a headquarters. It has a general assembly, and it's setting standards behind the scenes that hardly anyone even knows about. It's in Geneva, Switzerland. The ISO General Assembly is a decision-making body with its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. According to the ISO, and remember, ISO is not an abbreviation, but a Greek word, isos, meaning equal. The most common rule that they have standardized is the ISO rule number 8601, where Monday is the first day of the week. You're going to see calendars here and there. I've been seeing them for decades, especially in Europe, European calendars. Monday is shown to be the first day of the week. While everybody else is sleeping and working and raising their families, and going to school and maybe working 2 jobs, these people over in Geneva have been changing the numbering system for the days of the week. This is followed by TUESDAY, what was before the 3rd day of the week. And it's now the 2nd day of the week. You didn't know that, did you? And well, let's not say those names. You can get my book, Fossilized Customs, the ebook or the printed copy, and you can read about the details. But for all these centuries, our parents and grandparents were understanding that these 7 days were stable. Suddenly, in the last few decades, after 1949, these people have been changing things. But Australia, I believe England, Tasmania, the United States, they haven't been going for this. They are not going along with the numbering system for the days of the week. Using the ISO 8601 can help diminish uncertainty and confusion when communicating internationally. That's what the whole thing's about. We're going to change the Sabbath day. Well, Constantine already did that in the 4th century, but he didn't call it another name. The day of rest for Constantine's edict was the day of the sun. And I'll read that rule to you. Now, the ISO rule number 8601 is not effective in the U.S. and Canada. And about half the world's population do not follow the ISO standard. Countries like the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand have all retained Sunday, which is what they call it, as the first day of the week on their calendars. Until recent decades, the day of the sun was always the first day of the week all around the world. Even back in the 4th century and the 1st century, there were 7 days, and they just cycled around. Since that 4th century, it's been called the Lord's Day. What is the origin of Sunday as a day of rest? Well, here's the edict, okay? Edict of Constantine in 321. Actually, it was, we'll just read it. Quote, "Let all the judges and townspeople and the occupation of all trades rest on the venerable day of the sun. But let those who are situated in the country freely and at full liberty attend to the business of agriculture, because it often happens that no other day is so fit for sowing corn and planting vines. Let the critical moment being let slip. Men should lose the commodities, or lest men should lose the commodities granted by heaven." Unquote. So Constantine gave an allowance for people in the country, but people in the cities and doing work in the trades were forced to close their shops on the first day of the week. Eusebius was a man who lived between 270 and 338, and he was a noted bishop of the circus, a recorder of Constantine's life, and the reputed father of ecclesiastical history. And he tells us this, quote, "All things whatsoever that it was duty to do on the Sabbath, these we have transferred to the Lord's Day," unquote. Now that's from a book that he wrote called Commentary on the Psalms. Well, what he just did was he actually acknowledged the Sabbath, which has always been given in Scripture as the 7th day. That's where it originated, the 7th day rest. Well, he just said that whatsoever it was duty to do on the Sabbath, these we have transferred to the Lord's Day, which is the day of the sun. The Edict of Constantine just referred to it. It's one day later. Well, they're shifting days around now. Even though they were doing it then, they're still doing it. In the year 370 CE, that was in the same century, the Council of Laodicea, in its 29th canon, outlawed the observance of Sabbath. Quote, "Christians shall not Judaize or Yehudaize and be idle on the Sabbath, but shall work on that day." Yahuwah he gave us the death penalty if we worked on the Sabbath. And now these folks are changing a commandment. The 4th commandment is being altered. Okay, continuing. "But they shall work on that day, the Sabbath. And if any are found Yehudaizing," that is, resting on the Sabbath, "they shall be shut out from Christ," unquote. Well, that's a Christian writing that. In other words, if sin is lawlessness and the wages of sin is death, then do the math. What are the wages of disobedience? The same. That's what disobedience is. It's sin. Now let's ask Alexa. We've got one right here. It's AI. It's, artificial intelligence. We're going to ask her something. Alexa, what day is the 7th day of the week?
From todayifoundout.com. According to this article, Sunday is the 7th day of the week.
A website called I Found Out Today that Sunday is the 7th day of the week. Wow. Well, the pagan names of the days remained. They're still the same 7 pagan days of the week, but the numbering of them has changed. Now, the number is changed, but the names remain the same. Well, this is what we all remember. I'm going to show you. I just drew this up for you. I don't know if you can see all these days, but this is the standing for the first day of the week, second day of the week, third day of the week, fourth day of the week, fifth day of the week, and so on. And this is the 7th day of the week. Forget what these things are called. It's just day 1, day 2, all the way through day 7, which is the rest day. That goes on forever, And they've changed it to this. This is the first day of the week. And she said this is the 7th day of the week. Huh? And we can thank this little outfit right here in Geneva, Switzerland for that. Well, I thought that was a pretty important thing. You can't have this stuff sneaking up on you. So I just asked this AI what the 7th day of the week is. I'll ask her what the first day of the week is. Alexa, what's the first day of the week?
The first day of the week by weekday number is Monday.
Huh? See, I'm not lying to you. This stuff is real. And this is shocking. You may not ever hear this anywhere else on the internet. All right. I've shown you what happened, and you're probably stunned. First fruits was the day that, a morning after the weekly Sabbath during Matzah, when Yahusha resurrected. And it was the wave sheath offering that they conducted every year. But Yahusha fulfilled that when he resurrected at the end of the Sabbath while it was still dark. And then the next morning, when it was time for him to show himself as first fruits from the dead, Miriam was there, and she almost touched him, and he said, don't cling to me, don't touch me. I have not yet ascended to my Father. He was going to present himself as first fruits. Well, first fruits happens during Matzah, and it isn't given a designation in Scripture as a day of the month, because it varies. It's according to the week, the 7-day week, during Matzah, on the day after the Sabbath. So they always celebrate the 16th, which can happen, because, it can be according to the weeks on some years. And then 50 days later, we have wherever first fruits is, which is always on the first day of the week. And the Karaites are right about that. We celebrate another first day of the week, High Sabbath, called Shabuoth, which oddly enough means weeks. Shabua means weeks, and because it has the word 7 in it. Sheba means 7. It's talking about the week. It's not talking about the month. It's talking about the week. So 50 days after the first day of the week, during Matzah, you have Shabuoth, which is weeks. That's a plural word, Shabuoth. It's not Shabua, it's Shabuoth. That's what it means. And it's the observance of what in Greek it's Pentecost, which means 50th. And that's a Greek word, of course. We don't need that to prove anything, but it does verify that it is 50 days. And it's always on the first day of the week, not Monday. That's the new thing. Well, anyway, Leviticus or Uikra, chapter 23, is a place to check for that. So these celebrations that are said, first fruits, that's when Yahusha resurrected. And then the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the Spirit of Yahusha, into the first Natsarim to empower them and give them the ability to have the courage and the gifts to speak in tongues, so that people would be able to hear them in their own language, And both of them occur on the first day of the week. They're set by the first month in the springtime in the northern hemisphere, and the arrival of the first day of Matzah. The first day of Matzah is the 15th. And then by the day after the weekly Sabbath within the weekdays of Matzah. This reality may cause cognitive dissonance for those who observe the lunar Sabbath, which is not true. And you can verify this by just reasoning it Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of Yahuwah. Thanks for watching. Bye.